You're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with Chris Mascaro and Bob Lazari, where NFL legends live on. Back to you, boys.
Him, he's alive.
And now back here and making his fourth appearance with us on Thursday Night Tailgate is former Packers All-Pro kicker Chris Jacke. Let me remind you about Chris's background. He's from Richmond, Virginia, played his college ball at the University of Texas at El Paso. He was a sixth-round draft pick by the Green Bay Packers in 1989, and he played in the league from 89 to 1999 for the Packers, Redskins, and Cardinals. Spent a little time with my Steelers. He was named a first-team All-Pro player back in 1993, and he helped the Packers to a 13-3 record in 1996 and a win in Super Bowl 31 over the Patriots. Chris was inducted into the Packers Hall of Fame in July of 2013, and it's great having him back with us tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Chris and Bob here. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I didn't realize it's been that long since I've been on, so it's been a while.
It has been a while. Catch us up. What's been going on with you?
Let's see. Green Bay gave all its money to the quarterback here in town. The city's broke. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was good to see him to get the deal he deserves. So we're real excited about the upcoming season as long as he can stay healthy. That's everyone's concern. Can that shoulder stay healthy?
So therein lies the point, right, Chris? What are your expectations for the Packers this season? And we all know it rests on Aaron Rodgers' shoulder, and it does for so many teams. It does for the starting quarterback. But assuming he stays healthy, what are the expectations?
Well, I think assuming he stays healthy, I think we have a good chance of going deep in the playoffs, if not getting to the Super Bowl. With the additions we've made on defense with some young guys and, bringing in some veterans on offense, the tight end Graham and, but it all comes down to can Aaron stay healthy? We saw what happened last year when he didn't. We're not very good without number 12. So I think the sky's the limit as long as he stays healthy and the rest of the team stays healthy, and everything comes together. We got the new defensive coordinator this year. That's going to be exciting to watch and see develop. So everyone's excited here in Green Bay.
And Chris, I want to go back to your alma mater, University of Texas at El Paso. Had a tough season last year, 0-12. So thoughts on UTEP? What are your expectations there?
Some good draft picks coming for UTEP this year, I guess. It's just, I don't understand that. When I was out there my first couple of years, they were pretty rough, and then we got a brand new coaching staff under Bob Stoll, and some of the guys under him were like Marty Morningwig was a coach, Andy Reid was a coach. So we had some good coaches my last couple of years out there, and I know they've struggled for years, and they just can't ever seem to get something going. So I always say I'm from the University of Texas, and I let everyone else figure out, which city I'm from. So, but hopefully not 0-12. Not hoping 0-12.
So let's go on to a happier memory. I want to take you back to your time, obviously, with the Packers. October 14th, 1996. You kicked a game-winning field goal in overtime at home against the 49ers before a record crowd of just under 61,000 at the time. It was Monday Night Football. You had 5 field goals in the game. One of, was with 8 seconds left in regulation to force the overtime. Then you make a 53-yarder to win it. Take us back to that night and what you remember about that game.
Well, I mean, you hit all the bullet points as far as what I accomplished in that game. But people forget, that was a game that Robert Brooks, our number 1 receiver, went down. Don Beebe stepped up and I think he had over 200 yards receiving. The defense has been playing well all year. But if everyone remembers, the mid-90s, we always had troubles with the Dallas Cowboys or the 49ers. We just couldn't get over that hump. And that game really, I think we were maybe 6-1 or maybe even undefeated going into that game, but we hadn't beaten those teams, and those teams being, the perennial Cowboys at the time, although they haven't done anything in 25 years themselves. I'm from Dallas, so I can say that. So it was not only a big game for me, with the 5 field goals and winning it in overtime, but it was a big game for this organization here in Green Bay. It really got us over the hump and really steered us toward, home playoff, home field advantage in the playoffs. If we hadn't won that game, I've heard people say we probably would have had home field advantage. So it meant a lot, not only for myself, but for the organization as a whole.
Bob, questions for Chris?
Great to have you back, Chris. And I want to ask you. Good. I'm doing good. Thanks for coming on. I back in we don't normally think of kickers getting drafted. You actually did in the 6th round of '89. Was wondering, going into that day of the draft, did you have expectations? And what were your thoughts when you heard your name by Green Bay, a guy from Texas going to Green Bay?
Yeah, during that, prior to the draft, I worked out for, who did I work out for? God, you're asking me to go back quite a ways. I had worked out for the Denver Broncos. I think the LA Raiders, I think that's where they were at the time. They had already gone to LA. And that's where I was told I was going to be drafted. It was going to be one of those two teams. And that special teams coach from the Packers came down and we went and talked at a McDonald's over a Diet Coke. I never worked out for him, never kicked a ball for him. So going into that, first or second day, I realistically, it was going to be the second day being a kicker. And, I thought my name would get called and I'd be heading to LA or Denver or, one of those two places. And I got the call from Green Bay. This is before cell phone. So I was sitting in my dorm room, but my phone that was plugged into the wall. People probably don't remember those phones, but it was exciting. I didn't care where I went. It's an honor to be drafted no matter where you go. And I was real excited once I got here and I got to see what Green Bay was about. I know they hadn't done very well, in the prior years, but just the history that's here. I got to meet, the Jerry Kramers and Dave Robinsons and the guys that were here, Don Mikowski and Sterling Sharp. So it was a thrill to be drafted, and it was a thrill, to learn about the organization and the history that this organization has.
Looking back on some of your stats today, Chris, and as far as kickers, you were kicking the extra points from the old place, and you basically never missed. I mean, I think you missed 5 in your career, and I can guarantee there were probably 5 bad snaps, but it's automatic for you. I was wondering, is this something that you actually practiced during the week, or was it such muscle memory? And I'm sure you probably tried a few with your eyes closed and still could do it.
Never with my eyes closed. No, when I was playing, I was, during the week, every practice, I would start with extra points and then move back from there. So I never took anything for granted. Extra points are a little bit different these days. They're kicking for 33 yards, I believe, or 32 or whatever it is. So it's a little bit different. We've been fortunate here in Green Bay. We've, in my opinion, probably had the best kicker in the league, given where he has to kick. So he's done very well. I'm glad they didn't make that rule change when I was still around. I probably would have missed more than 5. But yeah, I practiced extra points like I did 55-yarders. It was just part of my process during the week.
Chris, we've had several kickers on the show, and we talked to Jeff Reed about this not all that long ago, and Jeff can remember the game-winning kicks that he made, but it seems like more vividly he can remember the kicks that he didn't make, and the ones that might have cost the Steelers a win, at the end of the game, that sort of thing. When you remember back on all the things that you accomplished, do you remember the good ones more, or do you remember the bad ones more?
I don't remember any of the misses. Like you kind of prefaced a few minutes ago, it was probably the holders or the snapper's fault. I like to be positive. I like to, stay, positive and only remember the good ones. I was fortunate in my career. I really never missed a kick when when the game was on the line, knock on wood if I ever get called back up. It just, at my age being, plus 50 here, I can only remember the good times and the good kicks.
And Chris, Bob was talking about a little bit ago, when you got drafted, right? At that time, the Packers weren't the Packers that we have today, right? It was a sort of in the lull period where things weren't going well for the franchise. They'd only had 3 winning seasons going back to 1968, besides the strike year. So I'm curious, when it got called and now it's Green Bay, right? Were you happy just to be drafted, or you start thinking to yourself, hey, again, I'm a warm weather guy. Now I'm going to Green Bay where it's cold. They're not winning. Boy, could it have been someone else?
I guess you can always think that. But when I came in '89, we had a great year. We were 10-6 my rookie year. The cardiac pack, I remember that's what they called us back then. We had like 5 or 6 games that would come from behind wins. And so it was a great year, and everybody was coming back the next year healthy. That was very key, but for some reason it just didn't work. Sterling Sharp started getting injured a little bit. Don Mikowski went down a few times, and those following 2 seasons after 10-6 season, just missing the playoffs, things just didn't work out those next 2 years. But that set up, what Bob Harlan accomplished, and he was the president of the club then, bringing in Ron Wolf and Mike Holmgren and his staff. And, if it hadn't been for those 2 4-12 seasons, we probably wouldn't have seen that coaching staff. So out of misery comes bliss, I guess.
And Chris, to that end, right? Mike Holmgren comes in. He takes over as head coach in '92. Team finishes 9-7, 3 straight seasons, then 11-5 in '95, followed by back-to-back appearances in the Super Bowl in '96-'97. So what was it? What did Holmgren do, or what finally connected, if you will, that got you guys kind of over the hump from being a 9-7 team to one that appeared in back-to-back Super Bowls?
No, nothing against Lindy and Fonte, but what Mike brought was confidence that he could build a winner. He came from a winning organization, the 49ers, and he just brought in guys that were winners. Bringing in Brett Favre was obviously huge. Bringing in Reggie White was probably, and I would say, for everything that Reggie could do on the field is what he was doing off the field that made the Green Bay Packers a champion. He would talk to players, Keith Jackson, he got him to come here. Andre Rison, all these guys, they probably wouldn't have ever thought of coming to Green Bay, Wisconsin to play football until Reggie White talked them into it. So, it was just everything that, that coaching staff did and the guys that they brought in on the field is what made the team special.
Bob, more for Chris?
And Chris, all those years in Green Bay, I think out of all the positions on a football team, a kicker is the one who needs to be able to feel his limbs in that kind of weather that you were playing in. And is there any way or anything you did special, Chris, to actually try to stay warm and loose, or is that not possible up there in December?
It's typically not that possible, but after about my 3rd year here, I made sure I had my own heater. They would have heaters, they had the heated benches, but they would also have those big, cannons that shot out hot air. I would always say to the ground crew, I needed one just for the kickers. And going into about my 3rd or 4th season, I had my own. So that helped quite a bit. I burnt, more shoelaces and more pads inside a helmet than probably any player on the field staying warm. But it was key. You had to stay warm. I mean, there were some chilly days out there.
And we were talking at the beginning of the show, you were rewarded, I should say, of spending your last 2 years in the desert of Arizona in the warmth. Chris, tell us about the difference in kicking. It must have been like carpet compared to cement, and it must have been, I would think it would be semi-pleasurable at that time.
Yeah, it really was. It just, even when I was playing for the Packers, I always enjoyed going to domes or, heading back when Tampa Bay was in our division. We were always going down there one time a year. Or, so those Southwest or California games we always look forward to. But being down there, it was a lot of fun. That team was struggling a little bit too. I think we went to the playoffs my 2nd year we were there. Some good guys down there with Jake Plummer and some of those guys. I had a good time. Got in my golf game. I could play golf year round, which was exciting. You can't do that in Green Bay.
And Chris, talking about the cold weather up in Lambeau Field, one of the things that I've always wondered about, right? We hear about the frozen tundra and all that sort of stuff, and the snow starts to fly in December and January. As a kicker, right? How do you get the left foot? How do you get that to plant? How do you get yourself so you're not slipping and sliding and falling all over the place on a field that's either frozen solid or covered in snow?
Right. Yeah. Well, the field, today it's quite different. They've actually got a synthetic grass growing with the real grass. And they've, over those past 10 years, the Packers have spent quite a bit of money to make that field probably one of the nicest fields in the league, even in December, with the heating system that they have. But back when I played, they had a heating system, but the problem is they couldn't use it because they didn't know where the electric coils were. It was an electric grid that was underneath the field. but they couldn't use it because they didn't know where the grid was, and they were afraid that players with a cleat stepped deep enough, they'd get shocked.
Wow.
So it was crazy. You just try different shoes depending on if it was muddy. You wanted a bigger cleat. There were times I was wearing a shoe just like a tennis shoe because it was frozen. It was that bad. So, but you got to play on it during the week and practice in it. When we'd go up the punter and I would go up to Lambeau often during the week and practice up there just to get a feel for that. But there really was no good way of preparing for that. You just had to hopefully get through it.
Hey, Chris, let's talk a little bit about Super Bowl 31. It was a game that you guys led 27-14 at halftime. The Patriots come out in the third quarter and they cut the lead to 27-21. But then Desmond Howard returns the ensuing kickoff 99 yards for a touchdown, and that was pretty much it. Could you guys sense that after Howard scored that touchdown, that maybe the Patriots' spirit was broken?
I think maybe 50-50. Then I think it was the next couple of series that the Patriots had on offense is when Reggie kind of took over the game. And I think that's when you kind of know we're going to win this. I mean, Reggie I can still see clips in my mind of him just throwing the offensive lineman to the side like a toy and making the sack on Bledsoe. But yeah, special teams played a huge role in that game. Defense played well. The offense played well in spurts. That gives a lot of credit to the Patriots defense, because we were pretty stacked on offense. But it was really, I think, the turning point was, like you said, the kickoff return, and then really Reggie kind of took over on defense.
So, Chris, when the clock winds down to 0-0, right, and the confetti starts to fly and all of that sort of thing, what's the first thing you did?
What's the first thing I did? I think I looked for my family. Was the first thing I did.
Yeah,
I think that's what a lot of guys, I didn't. My kids weren't there, but my wife at the time was there. My folks were there. My sisters and my brother were there. So I was kind of looking for them. I never did find them, and then I just kind of made my way to the stage in the center just to take it in. And I remember just looking. This is before cell phones and being able to record anything, but just to take it in visually and. Like you said, all the confetti, and then you see, Carrie Bradshaw up on the podium, with the trophy, and it's it was just magical to take in.
I know Mike Tomlin always talks about the Lombardi trophy, and by the time it gets, makes its way around the locker room, because he likes to call it the sticky Lombardi because it's got Gatorade and lip prints and hand prints and all of that sort of thing all over it. When the Lombardi finally made its way to you, what was it like?
It was. I was fortunate enough because that team and we kind of touched on it a little bit. There was a lot of turnover on that team over the years, and there were only two Lindy Infante holdovers, myself and Leroy Butlers, that were present at the Super Bowl from that prior era. So actually, Leroy and I got up on the stage, and I actually got to hold it before everybody started slobbering on it or spilling, whatever they were drinking at the time. So I got to go up there pretty quick. It was real fun being up there with Reggie and Leroy and Brett and Mike and all those guys. And it's just, I'm thinking about it now. I hadn't thought about that in quite a while until you asked that. But, I was in there early before the slobber.
Bob, one more for Chris?
Yeah, Chris, if you were to come across some young people, I'm sure it's happened, that have aspirations of kicking, at least in the college level or whatever. And say these kids are maybe 12, 13 years old. What advice do you give them, Chris? Do they have to play soccer? Is there a certain path that you set them on?
Yeah, I run into kids all the time that ask that question. And I quite frankly, I do tell them to play soccer. It helps a lot. Yeah, even when I was playing in the NFL, I would always warm up with a soccer ball. And I tell kids, I go, if you can kick a round ball straight, it's a lot easier to kick an oblong ball straight. So I say kick a soccer ball as much as you can. Obviously, playing soccer, you're running a lot, which is good for leg strength. And do this, as a kid, when I was 12, 13, 14 years old in junior high or whatever, I would have 3 or 4 footballs, and I'd go up to the local junior high or high school and just kick on my own and just kick, and just do it for fun and learn and kick soccer balls and enjoy life. You got to enjoy life too. And if that's something you want to do, enjoy it. Have fun doing it.
Chris, remind our listeners about your company, Player Alumni Resources, and what you guys do.
Absolutely. I started Player Alumni Resources back in 2013 to keep a lot of the alumni, a lot of the guys that I played with connected with the Green Bay Packer fans. And a lot of the things we do are golf outings or a lot of corporate speaking in the non-summer months up here. So we do a lot of corporate speaking because our summer months are very short. We'll come attend fundraisers. We'll come speak to youth groups or churches or what have you. And you can go right to the website at playeralumniresources.com, and it's a lot of the guys I played with, but like Jerry Kramer's on there. He just went into the big Hall of Fame. Congratulations to him. And a few guys from the 80s, like a Lynn Dickey, and like I said, most of the guys are the guys that I played with. But it's been a lot of fun. It's a great way to stay connected with the fans, and the fans seem to enjoy it when we come and help them out.
Chris, how can our listeners stay up to date with all the great things you're doing, whether it's online with Player Alumni Resources or over social media?
Yeah, I'm all over social media. I'm to my chagrin, my kids keep setting me up with all these different accounts on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram. I don't know what any of it does, but I have fun trying to do it. So I'm out there. I try and have a little bit of fun during the season with fans and keep the fans engaged on my Facebook page. So definitely search for me, and I'm out there. If not, just shoot me a message. My personal email is right on the website. You can shoot me a message if you have a question or something, and we can chat a little bit. I always love chatting with the fans.
Great.
Well, Chris, we can't thank you enough for taking time out of your night to come back and be a part of the show. It's been fantastic catching up with you. Hopefully, we'll get the opportunity to have you back during the course of the season, because it's always a lot of fun when you're a part of the segment.
I love it. Let's not make it too long this time. Like you said, let's hopefully about 3/4 of the season we can be talking playoffs for the Packers.
There you go.
Chris, take care. All the best to you and your family. We look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks.
All right. Have a great season, guys. Thanks.
Take care.
See you, Chris. That's Packers legendary kicker, Chris Jacke, and great stuff. He's so much fun, Bob.
Yeah, Chris, with this deadly heat up here in New England, I think of him kicking in Green Bay back in the day, and I automatically cool off. So I have another thing to be thankful for.
That's fantastic. All right, Bob and I will be back on the other side of these words from our friends at DP Quality Foods and the Salt Creek Golf Retreat.